Good evening. Hello, everyone. While it's getting pulled up, I'm Jeremy Litchfield. I'm the chair of the Town Commons Committee. And I'm going to give you a little bit of update. You can go ahead and advance the next slide. Just a little bit of what I'm going to go through today. May look like a long agenda, but I swear it is going to be short. Just wanted to give a little bit of intro to the Commons. There may be some people even on the council or within town that do not know a whole lot about the Commons, so just want to give a little background on that. A little bit more about the committee itself, the members, our purpose, and our duties and responsibilities. Talk about some of the history and the unique features of the Commons. It's been around for a very long time, over 300 years. And then take you all through a virtual tour, just some pictures to help you get a sense of there if you haven't been there recently. And then talk a bit about what we've actually done the last couple of years and what our big goals are for, I would say, the 23-24 budget year. So if you don't know, the town's Commons is located off Harpswell Road, Route 123. South of Bowdoin College is where the primary parking lot is. It's 72 acres of woodland and marshland. And since 1967, we've been managing it as a wild forest area, so pretty minimal intervention in terms of it, but just letting it go back to its wild state. It has a pretty nice trail network through there, and at any time of the year, any time of the day, you're likely to find people out there hiking, dog walking, cycling, cross-country skiing. I mean, it's pretty active. It's very rare that you're not going to see someone out there. So it's a great spot for recreation within the town. In terms of the purpose, I'll just read this out. And this was recently rewritten when we updated our charge, but to advocate for and steward our beloved town commons by advising and assisting the town council in restoring, preserving, expanding, and planning for the town commons. The goal of the committee is to foster deeper connections to the commons and in turn inspire deeper connections to the town of Brunswick and the natural world. In terms of the powers and duty, I referenced earlier that since 1967 it's been managed as a wild forest wilderness area. And one of our core responsibilities is general implementation of that plan, which was from 1967. It's the Sewell Plan. Extending from that is making any recommendations to the town council and updates to that plan, and actually facilitating a formal review of that plan every 10 years. That plan hasn't really been updated, I think, since the 80s, and a lot has changed since then, but just being more in tune with the plan and making sure we're making updates as needed. Advising the town council when events that occur that may affect the commons, with the town staff and Dennis and his crew, coordinating volunteer cleanups and maintenance at the commons as needed, and then coordinating general stewardship. The commons is actually a smaller section, part of the greater commons, which is then connected to larger tracts of land, and the only one who really understands, who recognizes the boundaries of these are humans. Plants don't, animals don't, so we want to do a much better job of actually collaborating on their stewardship of those to have a much more integrated plan on that. In terms of the members, we have a few vacant positions, so if anyone is interested at all in the crowd or if anyone's listening, we're always looking for some new members. We were fortunate today to just bring on 2 new members at our meeting we had before this. But this is a list. We're very excited to actually have a Bowdoin student member who recently just joined, and she's a rising sophomore at Bowdoin, which is great because with the commons being so close there, just having a stronger presence, a stronger connection to Bowdoin is really important to us. So in terms of the history, just recognizing it is the ancestral land of the Wabanaki people. It was established in 1719, and it's, I think even when you look at the age of what was going on, it's some of the oldest preserved land in our country, which is great. And it was established 1,000 acres of commonage. It was actually, Bowdoin didn't actually go there, but it was a factor in helping to establish Bowdoin in Maine. Some of the land, the commons land was offered for the campus. It didn't end up going there, and I believe it was actually given back. But a big part of it, and you'll see this on the next slide, is a big part of the land actually went to the Naval Air Station and the municipal airport. I'd mentioned it's 72 acres now. It was 1,000 to begin with, so you can just see how much of that land has been partitioned off. It's been a source of inspiration for quite a few famous people who have come through Brunswick. Everyone from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow to Nathaniel Hawthorne, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Joshua Chamberlain, Robert Coffin. And in 2019, it was actually the 300th anniversary of the Town Commons. There were some events going on that. So what you'll see here, this is rough, but this is trying to estimate the size of the commons originally, and what you're seeing in the bottom left corner, the red triangle is what exists now. Most of it you can see as you go up is all on the runway in some neighborhood. So you can see it's been cut back a lot, but it's still thriving, and we're always looking to, whenever possible, get the commons back to its original state. So some of the unique features, and it really comes down to the trees, and if you're a tree nerd at all, you'll understand this. But we have a pitch pine barren in the Town Commons, which is very rare, especially in the main landscape. We also have a grove of American chestnuts, and these are pure American chestnuts. And if anyone knows much about the history of American chestnuts, they were pretty much decimated, wiped out in the early 1900s. So to actually have some that are doing pretty well is pretty exceptional. I'll get into more. We've actually planted some more, but I think this picture is really cool and telling because the big tree in the background is a pitch pine, and right in the foreground in front of it is a chestnut. And there's probably not that many places in the world where you're actually going to see those two trees together, and the chestnut's actually doing pretty well. A little bit of a tour, a few pictures just to take you through. This is the main, from the main parking lot in the picnic area where most people start to explore the commons. Now, that said, a lot of people come from the neighborhoods as well. But I said there's a lot of trails throughout. This previous one right here is the main trail. It's pretty wide and accessible, and it runs pretty much the length of the commons. Pretty popular. But also there's a lot of side trails and what you might call single track, where there's enough passage for just one person, but there's quite a few trails, and it just gives itself a lot of opportunity to get out and feel very isolated in nature with some of these side trails. This right here is a picture of a little bit of the pitch pine barrens. All those are pitch pines right now, and they're actually doing quite well. I'll mention a little bit later. We've done some work to help kind of restore them and make sure that they stay and thrive. I mentioned year-round activities. You may think that it gets quiet there in the winter, but it's just as active as it is in the summer, from people using fat tire bikes to cross-country skiing. It stays quite an active place, and it's a pretty popular place for recreation. And then just some other great pictures that some people on the committee have taken over the years. If you can go ahead, there's a lot of lady slippers in there. If you're walking right now, they may have gone by, but just some cool mosses in there as well. So a little bit in terms of what we've done over the last 2 years. I think one of the bigger things we've done is installed 2 new interpretive signs, and by interpretive signs, it's basically information signs about the commons. And we did 2 of them, one on the natural history and one on the human history. So these are basically at the north and south boundary of the commons on the main trail. So if you're coming in from the Bowdoin College side, heading south from the north, that's where we have the history of more like the human history of it and how that's evolved over the years. And then if you keep going south at the other end, there's one more about the natural history, some of the flora and fauna that's actually in the commons. We've designed a new brochure that we're hoping to launch soon. We want to do it in collaboration with an updated trail map. So we got some work that we're looking to do around the map, the actual trail usage and maps. We installed there was a new picnic table installed. We bought and planted 40 American chestnut trees. I should say we've bought 40. We've planted 20. It will actually be Thursday evening. We're going to go out and plant 20 more. And we're just trying to make sure, as Dennis, the town arborist, said earlier, we're lucky if planting 10 of them, you might get one to survive because the blight will take them over. But just by that practice of continually planting them, helping them thrive, there's a chance maybe there can be a genetic mutation that will enable them to actually be able to resist the blight, but hopefully to keep them going. We've done a lot of work, and in the bottom picture, this is off the main trail. You can't see it very well of the pitch pines. One of the things that we have to be careful of is the white pines can start to invade and push out the pitch pines. They're much more aggressive growers, so we'll go in there in the winter and we'll pull out some of the seedling white pines that are coming up and cut some of the smaller ones down to give the pitch pines some room to grow and just strive, and they're doing relatively well right now. And we look to do 2 cleanups per year, so we've conducted 4 cleanups over the last 2 years. One in spring, one in fall, where we address a lot of the trash, especially along Harpswell Road, and then just do any sort of other trail maintenance that might need to be done. So in terms of what our big goals are for this coming, I'd call it the budget year, the Boundary Trail, which is a pretty popular trail, is very wet, and it's taken some abuse over the last few years in terms of people continuing to go off trail, ride bikes through it. So we're looking to, and we're approved to install some bog bridging over that, which will help to alleviate that. We're also working to, there's some rogue or goat trails that have been blazed in the commons, which is basically just general public creating their own trails. They're not approved trails. We're looking to hopefully bring them under as official trails so we can actually maintain them and better control traffic there. Once this all comes together, we're looking to implement some new trail standards, which will all come through you all, and some recommendations on how we think the trails should be used to make sure that as many people as possible can enjoy them in the safest way possible. We want to have a more integrated trail map of not just the town commons, but also the greater commons, so that people can understand the connection between them all, because like I said, the only people who really see the boundaries of those are the only ones who see that are humans. But when you're coming from Bowdoin College, it's highly unlikely that you understand where the greater commons begins and ends and the commons starts. Installing some new trail signage with a lot of these trail updates. And then we're looking to launch a program called Friends of the Town Commons, which is more of a working group, which gives us essentially a list of people that we can tap with a lot of the projects that we're doing. Our committee is unique in the fact that we're actually doing a lot of hands-on work, from cleanup to helping to maintain trails to helping volunteer with building bog bridging when we need to. So there's a lot of extra work we need to do without that can often require a lot of human power. So, that is our update, and I guess give you all the time to ask some questions.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation. Are there questions? Councilor Updegraff.
No, well, one question.
Okay.
But thank you, Chair Litchfield, for a great report, and it opened my eyes. I've been on the edges, but I haven't been all the way in there yet. I appreciate the committees looking forward for the next year or so. And I think that's exactly what we want our committee members to think about, to really launch goals, to look ahead, and to try to make Brunswick a better place. Thank you also for sending the counselors your presentation. And Mr. Manager, can we get that posted on the committee, Town Commons Committee page? That was really pretty interesting, and I think people would like to see it again. Thanks so much.
Councilor Hicks.
Thank you for the details as well. And I wanted to know the Friends group. So the committee work, you said it was unique because it was hands-on and just it's the nature of the committee. Ordinarily, you'd be more of just meeting and making decisions as a group. Do you have is there a fund that you also manage?
We do have a budget, yep. We have a yearly budget
one of the funds is for the commons?
It's a budget that goes through the regular budgetary process,
okay,
but
okay.
yes.
Okay, so you have kind of a unique role as well to be able to say, this is how we want to prioritize this funding. So the Friends group would be more of your hands-on component, and then the committee would do more of the planning and meetings-oriented work?
What it does is it just gives us the ability to do more of the work. Like even just when you take about think about doing the pitch pine work that we have to do in the winter when the ground is frozen, we're pretty limited because there's very limited days that we're able to do it. The ground barely froze this winter. And there may be like 3 of us out there. But if even the difference of getting an additional 2 to 3 or 4 more volunteers can just make us be able to cover so much more ground,
Right.
even in terms of our trash cleanup. So it's just more about having more human power when we're doing these. We're still going to do all this. It's just about getting more backup to help us.
Right. And then are the American chestnuts, are they the hybrid?
They're pure
They
American
are.
chestnuts.
Where did you get pure chestnuts? Just seedlings from other?
Every year, the American Chestnut Foundation has a sale, and you can buy them through, we go up to Augusta to get them, but we buy them through them. It's the Arboretum that's up there that facilitates it.
Because they do have hybrid now that it seems to be blight resistant.
It is, but we tend to be purists, so
Just checking.
not that those are a bad thing. We're just trying to do everything we can to help that tree thrive again.
Right. And then my final question, and I'm done. The seawall plan, it sounds like you're going to be getting into revisiting that and maybe updating it. And
Yeah.
will that start this year? Or
No, that's just something that's probably a longer-term thing once we get through a lot of this trail work. But ideally, we want to think about it, how it actually connects to all the property that, the surrounding greater commons, but also, when we look across 123, when that officially becomes part of town, it's like this is really one big piece of land that we just want to help ensure that it's all thought of more kind of collectively and cohesively.
Great, thank you very much.
Anything? Oh, actually, Councilor Shedd had raised his hand, and then I'll come back to
I had a question for the manager on the budget, so why don't we
then-
clear up this part first?
Councilor Watson.
I just wanted to, excuse me, I just wanted to comment, going back in history, let's say 50 years, 45 years, when the town commons was used as a dumping site in a town party area, and it was quite a mess. When we on the police department had a stolen car, that's the first place we went because it's usually on fire. So the improvements that have taken place over the past 15 to 20 years have been remarkable, and it's, I think, saved the commons for the future.
Yeah. I think a lot of people only know it the state that it's in right now, which is a great state. But as Councilor Watson said, there was a time in Brunswick history where you didn't go to the Commons. And there's a couple members who have recently left the committee who were very instrumental in helping to make that transition.
Councilor Shedd.
Mr. Manager, looking at the budget, under the expenditure section, I was wondering what the employee benefit line was about. It seems like an unbudgeted thing, or is that
Oh, you're talking about, I thought you were talking about the comments.
No, I'm switching over.
Sorry.
Is everybody finished with the comments?
Oh, I thought this was a financial thing related to the town commons.
No.
Okay.
So I don't want to jump
Are there,
around on anybody else's
Councilor Walker.
thoughts.
Thank you, Chair Mason, and thank you, Jeremy. You guys are doing a hell of a job out there bringing the Commons back to life. Not that it ever wasn't like a great place, but you're doing some fantastic work. I wondered what your thoughts are on integrating the 144 acres across the way. Have you guys had any preliminary conversations? I know there's old town monuments out there, and it was part of the historic Commons, at least
Yeah.
the section was.
Yeah, I mean, we've had we obviously talk about it and are excited about it. We're for the most part, the committee has always expressed our interest in making it officially part of the Commons and coming under our management and jurisdiction. That's our thoughts on it. Because again, we're trying to make sure, I think, but in the end, we just want to make sure that whatever happens, that there's a much more coordinated effort of these, from the greater commons, the commons, and whatever that land becomes, that how can we make sure it's a much more coordinated effort? And, but we would love it to be part of the actual return back to the commons.
Great, thank you.
Any
And
other,
keep killing white pines, would you?
any other questions? All right. Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
presentation.